I have a fun trade hypothetical for you guys today. And it's actually rooted in fact. Okay. So it's not as if I'm just sitting here pulling stuff out of my ace. All right. Tyreek Hill, the true trade cost, and some interesting things that I hope you guys have been paying attention to. Okay. That's what we got today. It's going to be pretty quick. Just hope that you're paying attention. If we haven't met yet, thank you for being here. Thank you for clicking on this video. I'm Lando from the Lando Show.
All right.
And this is Sports Below the Surface. You can find all my work on written work on cowboyscountry.com and everywhere on all social media platforms at the Lando Show. Okay. I'm around the clock and I do the best that I can to get to you guys' questions. I try to pop on Twitter a time or two, or actually really a time or six throughout the day, and just engage to the best of my ability. So that's a good place to find me as well. If you want to support this channel, all you got to do is either like the video, assuming you subscribed already, or just send it to a friend. It's the best way to help me out. I'll have Venmo and Cash App and all that other stuff listed into the description. And before we get rolling here too, thank you to Waggle, the official partner of the Lando Show. Get your waggleon.com, code HOSL10. Everything that you guys see me wearing, I'm repping Waggle, the best and the fastest growing golf apparel manufacturer in the game. All right. I hope we're paying attention to what Brian Schottenheimer, Stephen Jones, and a few other important people are saying. Okay. I want to refer here directly to this. This will be a teaser. I just put this out, spent an hour or so editing it. I'm trying to do less of that these days, short form editing stuff. But since I already put the time in, I'll go ahead and showcase it to you guys so that we're on the same page here. Give you a little teaser, a good idea, an overview of the premise. All right, here we go.
Cowboys traded for Tyreek Hill and then extended Micah Parsons. Their financial situation, as it's reflected on their books, their salary cap.
I don't think that's playing. Hold on.
Pretty much cancel each other. Be almost a net.
Let's mute.
So financial.
This button sometimes don't work for me. Here we go. One more time. There we go.
The Cowboys traded for Tyreek Hill and then extended Micah Parsons. Their financial situation, as it's reflected on their books, their salary cap, would pretty much cancel each other out. Be almost a net even. Okay, so financially speaking, a trade for Tyreek Hill is feasible. It's possible if they want it to be. The question would become, what draft compensation are the Dolphins seeking, and when are they seeking it? Which draft are they seeking it from? They don't have to trade him until late summer in August. I've already done this work for you guys. He cost $14.9 million in year one.
CowboysCountry.com.
In year two. Cowboys currently have $35 million. But he's got an option bonus built into his current contract that doesn't trigger until late summer. So the Dolphins don't have to do anything before this draft or during this draft if they don't want to. Stephen Jones and Brian Schottenheimer are sitting here telling you they are trying to trade for an explosive wide receiver too, if you just pay attention.
All right, we're on the same page there. Hope that's clear enough. Should be. So once again, this is a hypothetical, okay, guys? So don't take this as rooted in fact. I still consider it highly unlikely because you have to consider the draft compensation that the Dolphins will be asking for. And then which draft will they be asking for it from, right? Because of Tyreek Hill's option bonus, once again, all this is covered for you. It's written on cowboyscountry.com, and it's posted in a long-form YouTube video as well. I think it was posted yesterday. Tyreek Hill has an option bonus, $15.85 million. Doesn't trigger until the end of the summer. So the Dolphins don't have to trade him right now if they don't want to. Okay, they have some time. They bought themselves some time. Now, the checklist, why Micah Parsons is included in this, listed within the draft framework, okay? And I also want you guys to keep in the back of your minds, not just Tyreek Hill, because I am on record saying that there are a few other guys that I think, equally as appealing, but more financially and draft compensation friendly in all likelihood, okay? George Pickens is one of those guys. But then even a step above that, I would say, as far as likelihood is concerned, Cortland Sutton. So, but this is just Tyreek, just simply for the sake of name value, right? Because that's the name that's been continuously thrown out there. I've seen that more and more and more lately. So I want to address it. A trade for Tyreek Hill, year one, 2025, it would cost you $14.9 million. Okay. Regardless of when the Cowboys acquire him, whether it's before the draft this year or at the end of the summer, his price tag for 2025 doesn't change for the Cowboys. Okay. It does change for the Dolphins. They would eat $28 million of dead money this year if they traded him during the draft or before it. So the post June 1 designation is where the flexibility for them comes into play here. They can save a little bit more money if they spread out the cap hit over 2 years as opposed to just one. Once again, the work is already done for you. If you want to go and read, if you're confused about any of these terms, it's already written and it's already talked about. All right, so I'll be happy to elaborate. Like I said, tag me on Twitter with your questions or put it in the comments, and I'll do the best that I can to get to them. I'm wearing a lot of hats, so it's hard for me to be everywhere at once. I'm doing the best that I can. 2 small children, building 2 small businesses, and trying to maintain and prioritize my health, all these things, right? So I'm trying to get better about optimization and efficiency, but that's one of the things that I probably struggle with the most. Needless to say, that money, so the Cowboys have $35 million right now in cap space, okay? Tyreek Hill, year one, 2025, forget the draft capital for right now. We're just talking about the financials. The Cowboys draft book, their salary cap book, their financial situation, okay? just roughly $35 million right now in cap space, okay? Tyreek Hill, $14.9 million, walks that down to, let's just say 20. A Micah Parsons extension that coincides with this hypothetical would free up at or almost enough, if the Cowboys want to offset that. So 35 Tyreek Hill takes you down to 20. Extend to Micah Parsons takes you back up to roughly 30 or north of $30 million in space. Allocate 10 to 15 or so to the draft class, and then you're right back down to $20 million again. Still plenty of flexibility for a rainy day. Another cornerback trade, potentially. That's a hint. Okay. Just trying to get you guys to think outside the box here. And yes, this is a trade hypothetical, but it's also rooted in fact because of interviews. Brian Schottenheimer. I'll go ahead and give you guys a sample of what I'm talking about here, just so you know context. I don't know if I'll get copyright struck. I don't want to get a copyright strike for this. I don't think I will. This was posted on YouTube from the Dallas Cowboys channel, so please let me just go ahead and announce the source before YouTube bangs me on it. But here we go. Shotty's comments about building from the outside in were certainly interesting. I agree. And I understand why people ran with that specifically. But I think that a lot of us, too many of us, either forgot or didn't listen to the interview in its entirety, because it would have painted a much different picture for you in your head if you had. Listen to the first 10 minutes, guys. 3 or 4 things that he mentioned, reinforcing yet again since his onset as becoming the head coach: physicality, toughness, BPA, and the game being won and played from the trenches. Those are the first 3 or 4 things that he mentioned. So yes, the Cowboys have still significant holes at receiver and corner, and they could absolutely add an edge if they want to at 12. But BPA is what I would be taking away more so than outside in. Okay, the Cowboys still have holes at right guard, despite what Shotty may have shot my words down about Brock Hoffman yesterday. I wrote about that too on CowboysCountry.com, the bar fight, right? But still, that's what we're going to talk about next. With 100% certainty there. They don't know with 100% certainty at left tackle either.
They definitely don't know. We can say with confidence.
I just realized this is the.
So all I'm saying is,
this is actually the unedited version. I posted the edited version to other platforms because I just wanted to fire this off because my Twitter engagement does usually the best around closing time, 4:00 p.m. for most people who are headed home. So I was trying to get that out a little bit before that, which is why this is a different version. But that's why you got to follow me on all platforms so that you see a little bit of different taste of what I can do, what I bring to the table from a creative standpoint. I have a lot of fun making the short form hype reels and things like that, cinematic work for shorts. But I really, this is where I feel like I'm the best version of me right here. These types of settings, lives especially. We'll do more of those too as we move along. But if I guess I can share this. Let me just pull up. Let me just pull it up. I don't care if I get. Actually, I do. All right. So just work with me now. Trust me on what Shadi is saying. He mentioned something along the lines of, lifting up, turning every page and looking at every corner. They're trying to draft or trade for an explosive wide receiver too. Stephen Jones said as much himself. I like our room, but then he says we're looking to add, and he's mentioned trades now, guys, 3 or 4 different times. Like, he can't stop talking about it. So think about how quickly you change what you bring to the table as far as weaponry is concerned. If you trade for Tyreek Hill before the draft this year, he's probably going to be a little bit more expensive, right? Because the Dolphins are eating more dead money. So they're probably going to want a 2025 pick and for a little bit higher of a value than maybe they would have asked for if they were saving money and trading him after the draft or after June 1, right? But just think about what you have. If you give yourself the ability, you add to the receiver position, so you're not desperate to take Tetairoa McMillan at 12, but you trade for Tyreek Hill prior to, and then you have the ability to do so if that's the highest graded player on your board. Shadi mentioned adding in free agency first so that we can take the best player available, so that you avoid situations like drafting Tristan Hill in the second round back in 2019, drafting Tyler Guyton in the first round back in 2023 or last year, drafted Mozzie Smith in the first round back in 2023. Those are reaches. And by the way, since we're here, I might as well give you guys, y'all may just, I may go ham on Tyler Guyton too. We'll see how when I'm done with this main point here, how much time we got. I may do 2 separate videos. We'll see. But now, the second thing that I want you to consider, and I guess we'll just go ahead and do it because these two things kind of go together. All right. So you heard me mention in that last video, Brock Hoffman. Okay. One other thing that was very noteworthy in that interview, Nick Harris of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram asked Brian Schottenheimer directly, what is your confidence level in Brock Hoffman starting at right guard for you for 17 games? And Shotty very candidly, it's one of my favorite things about him, by the way, is that you actually get real answers from him. It's not just coach speak or stuttering. He's sharp. Okay. He's very well spoken. Without hesitation, he mentions, I would never bet against Brock Hoffman. And then he goes on to say, he doubles down and he says, if I'm stuck in the back of a bar and if I have to fight my way out, I want Brock Hoffman next to me. That's who I want, that guy. So physicality and toughness. Okay, so I'm going to pivot on you guys a little bit, all right? What I want you to think about, the whole purpose of this is the pipeline. Something is in the pipeline for a trade, either a corner or a receiver or maybe both. You can add a pretty solid corner in free agency still if you want. There's a guy out there on the market. His name's Asante Samuel Jr. But the only legitimate wide receiver too, by the way, the only way you're getting one of those, I should say, an explosive one, Cortland Sutton, George Pickens, Tyreek Hill, is by trading for one. Garrett Wilson is another name to consider, but I think he's actually happy where he is, and I think he's honestly the face of that franchise right now in New York. So I don't know. We'll see. But he would be my top choice. Connections to Texas, that's where he's from, entering the final year of his contract, have a fifth-year option still. So there's that. But then, George Pickens too, disgruntled in some sense. Very talented player. He's widely respected, widely regarded in this league, and he still hasn't even really had more than a replacement level quarterback thrown to him in his career yet. Dak Prescott would be by far and away the best quarterback that he's had in his career. And yes, I mean over Russell Wilson. Same thing with Cortland Sutton. It's a pro's pro right there. That's a team captain. That's a Texas native, an SMU alum. That's a guy that the Broncos have been trying to trade for quite some time. Entering the last year of his contract. Still only 29 years old. Maybe he wants to compliment CeeDee Lamb. I think that'd be a pretty fun connection, a fun pairing. Similar ability, I think, actually, an impact as a Tetairoa McMillan. So then just, you think about all that stuff, right? Think about what you still free yourself up to do whatever you want at 12. So you could be talking about, just think about for a second, CeeDee Lamb, either Tyreek, George Pickens, or Cortland Sutton, and then either Tetairoa McMillan or Matthew Golden. CD, Tyreek, and Tet? Are you kidding me? 3 perfectly complementary receivers, all that bring a little something different to the table. All right. Schottenheimer. All that stuff that we just talked about, the pipeline, okay, that's the real underlying point here, the premise. He's still preaching physicality and toughness. Right? People heard Shotty's words about building from the outside in with, positions like corner, wide receiver, and edge. And I think they sort of misconstrued what he said. And I think they overlooked the whole interview, right? Once again, the first 3 or 4 things he talked about: physicality, toughness, drafting the player available, having enough depth. Okay. So that so that you're not desperate and don't have to reach. That's what this is all about. Okay. But then they also created all this money to go out and spend it. They didn't just do it for nothing. Okay. So the second point that I want to make, as fun as that whole situation is with the CD, Tyreek, and Tetairoa McMillan potentially, don't overlook Shotty's words about physicality, toughness, and best player available. Okay, because as of today, and despite what Shotty said about Brock Hoffman, this is the transition now. The question was fair, and it's one that I myself have asked. Yeah, the Cowboys' run game improved when Zach Martin left, but you haven't seen Brock Hoffman play for 17 games yet. Robert Jones, they acquired from Miami through free agency. Started 17 games last year for them. So there's direct competition, yes, but neither of those guys, I mean, you can't say that you don't have question marks about, because you haven't seen it from Brock Hoffman 17 times in one season. Not even close. Not even half that. And you haven't seen a great product from Robert Jones when he has. Excuse my phone. So bank on that. Right? You could say that there's competition at right guard. Because that's what Shotty said. He wants to create competition. So everybody has to go earn a spot. And we'll talk about what Shotty feels as far as relationships, spending half of his days, which I think is incredibly profound, by the way. That's tomorrow's video. So come back and stay tuned. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. But don't be shocked and don't count out offensive line. As bad as y'all want a skill position player, and trust me, I do too. I get it. I understand. You got post-traumatic stress from Tyler Guyton and Mozzie Smith the last 2 cycles. But Tyler Guyton doesn't preclude you, much like Brock Hoffman wouldn't preclude you from taking Tyler Booker or Kelvin Banks or you name it, for whoever you want, Will Campbell, whoever you want. I mean, he's more obviously a tackle, but insert interior player here that you prefer in the draft. Brock Hoffman don't preclude you from taking Tyler Booker if that's the highest graded player that you have on your board. Brock Hoffman, or I'm sorry, Robert Jones doesn't preclude you from taking Tyler Booker, Kelvin Banks. If that's the highest, if those are the 2 highest, one of those guys is one of the highest graded players that you have on your board when you're on the clock at 12. Okay, listen. My mind's in a pretzel right now because I'm just going to think, making sure I piece this together appropriately. I'm going to pull up Dane Brugger's big board for y'all. I believe the top 50 was updated today. I haven't had a chance to look at it. That's how busy I've been. But we'll do it right now. I'm going to put a bow on this guard discussion, or the guard discussion, and I want to close with Tyler Guyton. Okay. Let's see. Donovan Jackson. That's the name I was. So physicality, toughness are the single most glaring weaknesses. It's the thing that stands out when you look at and evaluate the Cowboys' most significant losses in recent memory, dating back to, let's just say, the first 49ers playoff loss. Talk about San Fran, talk about Green Bay in the playoffs, talking about Buffalo in the regular season, talk about Arizona in week 3 2 years ago, talking about, there's one that I'm forgetting. But where you just absolutely get bullied because that culture, the country club culture, right? And your inadequacies up front in the trenches, both sides of the football. I didn't even talk about defensive tackle yet, because that position could very well be in play at 12 as well. Now, that would be my least recommendation because of the hit rate and because of the time to translate. The bust rate is very high at defensive tackle, because I've talked about this before as well. DTs are oftentimes wrestling 2 very rare athletes from a size perspective. They're fighting 2 of them at the same time because they're usually outnumbered. All right. And now offensives are getting more and more creative with their eye candy, with their misdirection, with their motion, all that stuff. You got to be incredibly big. You got to love the game of football because you got to, be technical as well. You got to have a black belt in hand fighting and anchoring and, hand positioning and leverage and all that stuff. And you got to take on two guys at once. All right. But needless to say, Walter Nolan makes your team better. So now to Tyler Guyton. No, you cannot bank on him. Yes, you must consider tackle at 12 still in this draft. Josh Simmons, Will Campbell, Armand Mimbu, Calvin Banks. But writing off Tyler Guyton would be foolish at this stage of his career. He didn't play football full-time. Or I'm sorry, he was a full-time basketball player up until his senior year of high school. Okay, and he wasn't a full-time offensive lineman until 2022. He's playing a couple different positions, including defensive line and tight end. And in the year he enters the NFL, he was a right tackle, protecting Dylan Gabriel's blind side. And then he was placed into a situation where offensive line coach Mike Solari was fighting for his job. Contract year. He got a family to feed. He doesn't have time to babysit a project, albeit one with incredibly high upside, in a year when he has to try to win football games, and he can't trust a guy who's never played left tackle before to come and protect the blind side of a $240 million quarterback. Okay? Tyler Guyton didn't get a fair shake. Not that it wasn't fair. It was just the hand he was dealt. Okay? So to rule him out is an admission of ignorance and naivety. But in the very same breath, to move forward with him as your guaranteed and infallible solution without insurance on draft day would be equally ignorant and naive. Creating competition, Brian Schottenheimer said. Either another offensive tackle is coming via trade. Highly unlikely because there's a shortage of them. It's a pandemic of guys that are quality and capable. So teams don't usually trade them if they're worth anything. Okay, so that's leads me to the point, the ultimate punchline here. Okay, despite what I said about how exciting the trio at receiver would be, CD, Tet, and Tyreek, you got to create competition at left tackle. You got to have insurance. You got to get better at that position, whether it's Tyler Guyton or somebody else. Can't trade for one because nobody trades good ones, so you're gonna have to draft one probably. Right? Now, it doesn't have to be at 12. But we all know, and no, I haven't forgot about the other guys that are on that roster. Okay, Austin Richards deserves some flowers. Okay. Either way, either to count Tyler Guyton out or to move forward without adding insurance equally ignorant and naive. All right. So with that, I think that's pretty much it for the day. I told you what we're going to talk about tomorrow, so make sure you check back in with me. All right. With that, we have, that's pretty much it. Yep. I'm Lando from the Lando Show. And this is Sports Below the Surface. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something, and I hope you will do me a favor. Help me out. If either of those two things are true, share it with one person. That's it. I love you. Remember that prayer changes things and the war is already won. Talk to you tomorrow.